morning program wherein we are reading and discussing from ISOPANISHAD, and we are going to start with text 2. I hope my sound is audible, loud and clear. Let's begin with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shannavadi Pashatayadi Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone. Is this stream went online? Please check it out. Okay, all right. So, where is Zoom here? Yeah. So, Hare Krishna. So, let's begin with text 2 for today. We can close the doors, please. Text number 2, ISOPANISHAD. If somebody wishes to share a screen, can share a screen. Madhavendra, I have given you rights. So if you wish, you have time, you can share the screen. Kurvaneveha karmani jijivase kshatam samaha. थोड़ा जोर से बोलो यार, पिछले 2-3 दिन से फास्टिंग कर रहे हो. Kurvaneveha karmani jijivase kshatam samaha evam tvai nananetasti na karma lipyate nare. Together. Kurvaneveha karmani jijivase kshatam samaha evam tvai nanate tosti na karma lipyate nare. What meaning? Kurvan, doing continuously. Eva, thus. Iha, during the span of life. Karmani, work. Jijivishit, one should desire to live. Shatam, 100. Samaha, yes. Evam, so living. Tvai, unto you. Na, not. Anyatha, alternative. Etaha, from this path. Asti, there is. Na, not. Karma, work. Lipyate, can be found. Nare, unto a man. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continually goes on doing work in that way, because that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma, and there is no alternative to this way for man. Very fantastic. Kurvan eveha karmani. If you look at the Sanskrit that way, so certainly one should continue to perform work, or one should engage, one should perform work. Karmani. Jijivasik shatam samaha. Jijivasik shatam samaha means for his whole life, century, which means the whole life. One should act, one should perform his work in such a manner for whole life. What manner? Evam tvai na anyatha asti. You don't have any other alternative. Na karma lipyate nare, for the work to bind you. There is no other way you can engage duty and not get bound except for this way. What is that way? What is that way? यहाँ श्लोक में तो कहीं that way given ही नहीं है. Which, yeah, the answer is in the first shloka. So therefore, just I'm kind of educating you on the side of how the Vedic scriptures are studied. They are seen in connection. So this is in relation to the first verse. In the first verse, it was said, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagatyena tatyena vanjitam agata tasya sudhanam. Everything is controlled by the Lord, and Lord has ordained a quota for you. Be happy. Do not look at others and aspire for their possessions. Which means Isha, knowing that Ishvara is the controller, we are the subordinate, we are in care of, we are not in control of. We are in care of, we are not in control of, we are performing services or activities to support or to assist or serve the Lord. And that consciousness, if one performs work, na karma lipyate nare. So, all of you Bhagavad Gita scholars, what shloka in Bhagavad Gita speaks almost the same thing? What shloka in Bhagavad Gita speaks the same thing? All right. Yagna artha karmano nitra na karma na kya yagna artha karma lokoyam karma bandhanaha. And yagna artha karma, this is third chapter, verse number 9. Yagna arthat karmano nitra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Like that? I believe yeah. Tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha. Just check it out, 3.9. Yeah, sets you free. There is no other alternative like this. Okay, भाई इतना समय लगा तो तुमने 3.9 निकाला में अभी तक नहीं निकला. हाँ तो बोलो ना आखिरी दो लाइन वही है ना. हाँ तदर्थम कर्म कांत्या. You should perform this work only. Mukta sangha samachara. It sets you free from it. That's the point here. So that's the point we mentioned here. So this verse is talking about karma yoga. It begins once again establish our position, relationship to the Lord, and how we should be performing our work. All right, let's take a look at purport, what Papa says on this. All right. So purport, first paragraph. No one wants to die, and everyone wants to live for as long as he can drag on. This temperament is not only visible individually, but also it is visible collectively in the community, society, and nation. There is a hard struggle for life in every class of living entities. And the Vedas says that this is quite natural for the living being. The living being is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in the material existence, he has to change his body from one to another. This process is called transmigration of the soul. This transmigration is called karma bandhana. So when it is said na karma lipyate nare, your action does not bind you, which means you perform an action such a way that you do not have to take birth again. So this verse, Kurvani Veha Karmani takes 2, talks of the way of attaining moksha, liberation. How you can gain freedom from this material world, which is a subject, consistent subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Shri Krishna again and again speaks about it. So that's the point here. Karma bandhana. This transmigration is also called karma bandhana. You perform an action, you get a reaction, but the reaction is not something you get it now. You get it in your next life also. So what kind of actions you perform accordingly, you're creating your next life. And what happens in your next life is all destined. And destined based on what? What you perform now. Like that, it all works, functions. The living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is the laws of material nature. And if he does not act according to the prescribed duties of his particular life, he transgresses the law of nature, making himself bound more and more in the cycle of birth and death. So we should have clarity about what is this world, what am I doing in this world? Ajnanata or ignorance. What is ignorance? A person in ignorance thinks this world is for my bhoga. This is meant for my exploitation, not enjoyment. What we call as enjoyment in a conditioned state is generally exploitation. Look at any kind of exploitation. We're not really enjoying our senses. We exploit our senses because we do ati. we get into excess of it, isn't it? And because of which we fall sick, we get so many diseases and whatnot. It's all about exploitation. That's the nature of this world. That's the nature of a conditioned living entity. So very clearly, Bhagavad Gita, all the scriptures says the same thing. This is a place for reformation. This is not the place for enjoyment. It just cannot be an enjoyment. Dukhalayam shashvatam. What really can be? Those who say that they're happy is a sign of mode of ignorance. Only in mode of ignorance, person can think he is happy. In mode of passion, he experiences the struggle. In mode of goodness, because his senses are awakened by knowledge, he is content with what comes and he is living a God conscious life. So, therefore, Prabhupada used to say, do not look at others' riches and feel disturbed. Oh, I could have also wondered, why did I become a monk? Phas gaya main. No, nothing like that. This is all, nobody is happy. Look at, I'm pretty sure if not in your case, you might have had some friends and relatives who were very rich. You would have had those scenarios in your family and friends. Were they really happy? Were they really more happy than you? When they came out in a public life, they looked happy because everyone shows up. Ek rupe ka circus. Remember that example? But in their personal life, kitch, that struggle goes on, fighting within the family members, business crisis, whatnot. So that's the thing. So Prabhupada is saying, we have to act according to the prescribed duties. If not, we transgresses the law of nature and then we are punished. Prabhupada says here, the living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is a law of material nature. Which means it is in this material world that you have to work for your livelihood, not in the spiritual world. How many of you remember that Pandora's example? In our childhood, in our schools, we were taught that there was a one point in time in the history in the world, everything was blissful. The tree grew on its own, gave mangoes and apples. Nobody had to go to the farm to till the ground. Everything was in abundant fresh water supply, grains, and weather was so nice, so pollution-free. There were no diseases. There were no need for any education, any office hours. Kids were only play and play and play. Everyone was happy and merry. How many of you have heard the story of Pandora's box? You heard it, right? Some of you. In school it was taught. And then there was one young girl. She came back home. She went inside in one very old closet or something, or old room. She opened that, and there was this one box known as Pandora's box. And it was written, warning, do not open it. And the child became more enthusiastic. Are, ab to kholunga. And the girl opened it. And then came IT jobs, compulsory degrees, education, miseries. Now you have to go and till the ground and all that. So like that, there was a story. So that's what is this world about. So you have to work here for your livelihood. There's no other way. Then question comes, types of work. See, because that's the laws of nature that everyone has to work. Therefore, so much discussion happens on the types of work in Bhagavad Gita. Even if you go to an astrologer, think about it. Everything is consistent. There's no different opinion. If you go to an astrologer, he'll look at your chart and tell you, okay, इसका गुणा कर्म ऐसे कि वो ये काम कर सकता है. हाँ या ना? चाइल्ड जब एस्ट्रोलॉजी जब आपका चार्ट बनता है बचपन में जन्म होने के बाद भी, तभी वो यही बताता है वो क्या करेगा. Nobody says कि हाँ ये बहुत अच्छा इंसान रहेगा, खाएगा पिएगा मौज करेगा. वो बोलता है कि करेगा क्या. ये सुनो, आप भी कभी एस्ट्रोलॉजर के पास गए हो या आपके माता पिता आपको लेकर गए हैं, व्हाट डू दे आस्क? मेरा बच्चा क्या करेगा? Work is a very predominating factor here, and therefore Krishna speaks a lot on work. That is called as karma. The third chapter, fourth chapter is all about karma, and of course the rest of the chapters also. Let's take a look at types of work. Prabhupada talks about second paragraph. Anyone would like to read here? Can raise their hands. Okay, Madhu Roshni, go ahead.
Other life forms are also subject to a cycle of birth and death. But when the living entity attains a human life, he gets a chance to get free from the chains of karma. Karma, akarma, and vikarma are very clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita. The actions that are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures, are called karma. Actions that free one from the cycle of birth and death are called akarma. And actions that are performed through the misuse of one's freedom and that direct one to the lower life forms are called vikarma.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Again, look at it. What a brilliant system has been designed. Now, a question can be asked, for whom this akarma, karma, vikarma is applicable? It is applicable only for human species, not for the lower species. Now, isn't that the lower species, animals have to work and struggle for their survival? Then why they have not been given this classification or categorization? The reason is simple. If you look at from the perspective of the whole design of this creation, so a living entity is a spiritual spark. Based on his desires, based on his past karmas, he has got different set of bodies. And the different sets of bodies are organized based on the maximum what we can think in this whole design in this world. Now, in that, each set of body, species, let's have a species, comes with certain inherent abilities. For example, if I talk about, let's compare between humans and lion for a reason, or let's say tiger. What one strength of tiger would you say over human? What is one strength of tiger over human that human can never have? That human can never have. The speed can never have it. It's a different thing. You sit on a bike and that's a different thing. But cannot have his own speed. Now, what is the strength of a human over a tiger? Intelligence. You're seeing the point I'm trying to raise here? So every species has been provided with something. Now, when it comes to humans, everything humans have been provided is higher intelligence. Purpose of intelligence is to discriminate. Is to discriminate between right and wrong and to have a determination to follow the right. Because you have been provided with higher intelligence, so these instructions are applicable for whom? Human species, not for animal species. You talk about eagle, can fly. Humans cannot fly. You talk about fishes, they can swim, they can survive in the water. Humans cannot. But none of the creatures you'll compare with humans and say they have higher intelligence than humans. Yeah, today's humans may have lesser intelligence. That's a different thing because trained in modern education system. They become more dumber. That's a different thing. But in general, so therefore these instructions are applicable for humans. Now it's applicable for humans, then the karma, principle of karma become applicable only for humans. Now tiger kills a man, kills a cow, no karmic reaction. So all the lower species goes through evolutionary cycle. There is a set from this species, you go to next species, and like that it moves on. But human species, therefore, scripture says so. Human species are first of all so rare in 8.4 million species, and this is the only exit option that we have. And because it's the only exit option, we have been provided with certain rules and regulations. Every human being, every sane human being with rights should understand what is karma, akarma, and vikarma. Now, if you look at from this perspective, how many of you would agree when Prabhupada says that today's human being or civilization, human civilization is like animal or even worse than animal, their lifestyle? How many of you agree with this? Because there's no discrimination, there's no understanding, they're doing anything they want to do it. All right? Now, next Prabhupada talks about in the next paragraph, be intelligent and choose your actions accordingly. Nirjan Sakha Prabhu. Padiye. Kahan gaye Prabhu hamare? Yes. Please go ahead. The third paragraph.
Yeah, the third paragraph. Actions that are free from the cycle of birth and death are called a karma, and the actions that are performed through misuse of one's freedom and that direct one to the lower life forms are called vikarma. Of these three types of actions, that which frees one from the bondage to the karma is performed by intelligent men. The ordinary men wish to perform good work in order to be recognized and achieve some higher status of life in this world or in heaven. But more advanced men want to be free altogether from the action and reactions of work. Intelligent men will know that both good and bad work equally bind one to the material miseries. Consequently, they seek that work which will free them from the reactions of both good and bad work. Such liberating work is described here in the pages of Sri Ishopanishad.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And that's also the major subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. Perform your duty in such a way, the duty, your action itself becomes yoga. That's the reason the word comes karma yoga. Yoga means to connect with the Lord. And what could be the easiest way to connect with the Lord? If the work that you perform, through that only you can please the Lord. You don't have to go to the forest, take to the severe austerities, and live in seclusion, worry about your survival or not, extreme weathers. Be in the city life, be part of any profession, but perform your duty in such a way that that profession paves the way for your journey home, back to Godhead. What a fantastic system, isn't it? So this is what is being discussed right now. Next, Prabhupada talks about we should regulate our working energy to realize the absolute truth. All right. Mother Anjana, go ahead. Read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Yeah,
The
please.
instructions of
Mhm.
the instructions of Shri Ishopanishad are more elaborately explained in the Bhagavad Gita, sometimes called the Gita Upanishad, the cream of all the Upanishads. In Bhagavad Gita 3.9 to 16, the personality of Godhead says that one cannot attain the state of nice karma or a karma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. This literature can regulate the working energy of a human being in such a way that he can gradually realize the authority of the Supreme Being. When he realizes the authority of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva or Krishna, it is to be understood that he has attained the stage of positive knowledge. In this purified stage, the modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, cannot act, and he is able to work on the basis of nice karmaya. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. So Vedic literatures can regulate the working energy. Go Ranga. So that's the point. So Vedic literatures, the Vedic study actually educates us, tells us what to do, what not to do, and how to use the valuable human energy in helping oneself, like that. And then Prabhupada in the next paragraph talks about how nothing else to be rendered except for service to the Lord. Mother Rashmi, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Factually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional services to the Lord. However, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. A conditioned soul is accustomed to working for sense gratification, for his own selfish interest, immediate or extended. An ordinary man works for his own sense enjoyment, and when this principle of sense enjoyment is extended to include his society, nation, or humanity in general, it assumes various attractive names such as altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, and humanitarianism. These isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhana, karmic bondage, but the Vedic instruction of Sri Ishopanishad is that if one actually wants to live for any of the above isms, he should make them God-centered. There is no harm in becoming a family man or an altruist, a socialist, a communist, a nationalist, or a humanitarian, provided that one executes his activities in relation with Ishavasya, the God-centered conception.
So it is said that our buddhi is karmatmakam buddhi, which means is highly dictated and covered over by the spirit of acting. How many of us would agree that none of us can sit idle for even a second? Sit idle for a second doesn't mean that you cannot just sit straight. That's not the point. Sit idle means your mind cannot be quiet. Your mind is always thinking, planning, doing something. Huh? You know, yes or no? Maybe through chanting, maybe it has been slowed down a little bit. But prior to that, how much active, how much disturbed the mind would be. So that's our state here. So we cannot change it. So what to be done? It needs to be connected to the Lord. Now, whatever we do, if just we add the conception of God, that's what Prabhupada is saying, all that activity becomes successful. And that's the point of here, this particular verse. You know, just understand the Lord exists, and then in that consciousness, perform the duties. The one challenge or the concerns that outsiders have, which they may or may not express directly, but that's their fear. And their fear is, I would lose my freedom if I take to God conscious lifestyle. How many will relate to this? Agree? Acknowledge? They think there are too many rules and regulations. There will be somebody sitting on my head dictating me what to do, what not to do. How many of you agree with this? That's kind of a thought process of the public outside. I mean, they say, हमें कोई problem नहीं आप जो कर रहे हो. You know, I mean, like all of you as a practicing devotees, you all go to IT job. How much is your day is different than theirs? You spend 8 to 10 hours in office hours. You come back home, you sleep for 6 to 7 hours. That makes almost 14, 15 hours. Then you eat. Then another 1 or 2 hours for, for breakfast, lunch, dinner. You maintain your body. कर 17-18 घंटे तो ऐसे निकल गए दिन के. Okay, almost close to 20 hours. बचे 3-4 घंटे. Now in this 4 hours, what do you do makes all the difference if you break the time like this. Now, what would an outsider do? Think about it. Let's open this for discussion. What do you think people do actually? Am I clear with this analysis, what we're trying to do here? Let me again say, the major concern of the fear people have is, even of the pious people, those who are really exploitative nature, that's a different thing. Even of the pious people, they don't want to really follow, get connected to God conscious culture. The reason is they feel that my freedom will go away. My way of thinking will go away. I would be dictated terms and conditions. So my question is, how much of a day looks different? Everyone goes to work 8 to 10 hours, let's say 10 hours, travel time including. 7 hours sleeping, 17 hours. 3 hours for bodily maintenance, 20 hours. Remaining 4 hours. So what do devotees do different in 4 hours than the outsiders? And which is more constructive? Let's compare it and think about it. So what devotees do? They spend 2 hours for chanting and 1 hour of worship and another 1 hour for reading or hearing, correct? There's 4 hours of our activity. Every day we try to spend. What do the outsider do? What do the outsider do? What are possible things that outsider do? Think about it. Yes, Roshni, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Prabhuji, watching Netflix.
Okay.
Social media.
How constructive it is? Is it constructive, destructive, or
very destructive?
It's highly destructive. Nonsense is shown there. What else? What else? Sports. They go for some sports. Okay, some sports. More than social media. Yeah, social media, Netflix. सब माई बाप एक ही है. चाचा बहन एक दूसरे के, ठीक है.
Gossip.
You talk about WhatsApp, Facebook. You talk about it. How constructive it is. What value it adds. What else does it? What else?
Prajalpa.
Oh, gossip. Prajalpa की चीज़ है. Prajalpa is gossip is. What else?
Probably the
extra sleep. That fellow will sleep for 10 hours and increase the size of fat on his body. Yes or no? Okay. What else? If you see overall, if you do this analysis, what is he doing with his life? Now, because he has not used those 4 hours in a constructive way, he has not strengthened his mind. He has made his mind more weaker. Because either oversleep creates ignorance, watching Netflix, social media agitates the mind. Because his mind has got disturbed. When you go back to spend his time with family or professional life, how many of you agree he's going to struggle there? He would have a lack of concentration, lack of focus. He would have more mistrust. He would doubt people's intention and whatnot. Then because it's spoiling this 4 hours, he spoils his professional life, personal life, family life, social life. he makes a mess of his life. Now, where do you really find your sense gratification? So Mahabharata says, Ahar, Nidra, Bhai, Maithunam. Okay. Does God conscious life stops any of the four things? Now, I can bet you nobody can have as delicious food, or we call it prasadam, as Hare Krishna walas. We are pakka sense gratifiers. Think about it. Anyone, if you tell all of your congregation now, boys can answer this well. How much sweet do we used to eat before coming to Krishna consciousness? And what most did you eat in the sweet? If you're North India, gulab jamun, some few items. Now you get an international cuisine here of sweets. We had simple suji halwa. For the first time, I ate pineapple halwa. मैंने कहा अरे pineapple का भी हलवा बनता है बोले नहीं सूजी का ही हलवा उसमें pineapple डाला है pineapple halwa, strawberry halwa, what not. I mean, we are perfect sense gratified. Why? Because we want to offer the best to the deities and then we honor it. Isn't that incredible? I mean, full course meal, how much your mother would provide all this thing. हमारा स्वीट होता था होली पे एक स्वीट, दिवाली पे एक स्वीट, बीच में एक तो त्योहार आ गया तो उस पे स्वीट. That's all. और अगला कोई स्वीट होता था तब होता था कोई रिश्तेदार अगर स्वीट का डिब्बा गलती से लेकर आ गया, वरना कोई स्वीट नहीं होता था. Now here in Krishna Kani, even congregation get to eat every day sweet, every day, not every day, every week. You come inside the ashram, we'll give you every day. Jokes. The point here is, and what about the sleep? Now think about the sleep. Who has a quality of sleep? You can only have a quality of sleep when your mind is relaxed. Whose mind is more relaxed and peaceful than devotees? So who are the biggest enjoyers or sense gratifiers? We get the best of the ahar, we get best of the nidra. So best of the nidra, 6 ghante mein we are supercharged. And these fellows have to sleep for 8 to 10 hours. They also wake up with a headache. ठीक है. Ahar, nidra, bhai, protection. भाई कृष्णा बचाना चाहते हैं तो कोई मार नहीं सकता, कृष्णा मारना चाहते हैं तो कोई बचा नहीं सकता, तो टेंशन ही नहीं है. There is no tension, there is no discussion. And Maithunam, those who want to get married, they are allowed for that in a regulated manner, where it is. And by basic definition, those who understand the human physiology, even I have the scientific research paper by the scientists, they very categorically says one should not engage in Maithuna beyond certain limit. Scientifically also is proven once in a month. That's what Prabhupada said. Unless you have a child, you can attend for once in a month like that. Many things have been spoken about it. And every good doctor who knows about the human physiology, he knows the value of preserving the most vital element that is called as reta or semen like that. The more people are encouraged to waste it, the more crazy they become. So what are we missing in our life? Only thing we are missing in our life is misery and ignorance. And what they have in abundance? Misery and ignorance. So I don't know why people struggle. So therefore this ISOPANISHAD is a very important book. All right, God-centered activities. God-centered conception ho gaya na? The next paragraph. Mother Sangeeta, your hand is up. Then after that, Mother Medhavni. Go ahead. Okay. Please read.
In the Bhagavad Gita 2.40, Lord Krishna states that God-centered, the greatest danger of life is the danger of life is that just a few of them can serve a person from the greatest danger. The greatest danger of life is the danger of gliding down again into the evolutionary cycle of birth and death. Among the 84 lakhs species, if somehow or other a man misses the spiritual opportunity afforded by his human form of life and falls down again into the evolutionary cycle, he must be considered most unfortunate. Due to his defective senses, a foolish man cannot see that this is happening. Consequently, Sri Upanishad advises us to exert our energy in the spirit of Ishavasya. Being so engaged, we may wish to live for many, many years. Otherwise, a long life in itself has no value. A tree lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, but there is no point in living a long time like trees, or breathing like bellows, or begetting children like hogs and dogs, or eating like camels. A humble God-centered life is more valuable than a colossal hoax of a life dedicated to godless altruism or socialism. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
So what we discussed just now was some level of, what a man wants. But actually, that's not only what a man wants. Ahar, Nidra, Bhai, Maitan. These are the four common things between man and animals. More than that, man wants, kind of a good family life, good friend circle, a successful professional life. This is all part of the security element. But think about when you have a God conscious life partner, would you naturally going to have a good family life or no? There's no question of any doubt that this person going to cheat me or not. I mean, people outside really worried about these things. I knew an individual from Bombay. He belongs to a very, very rich family. Chopati ke paas wo kaun si jagah hai? Who had come along with me to the house? Yeah, wo kya hai wo? Nahi. So, I mean, some of you had come along with me to his house also. Next to his house is Birla ka tha, and that whole, is a very rich neighborhood of Bombay. So I have you can say a friend or a student there. So he belongs to that neighborhood. So he was sharing with me, his friends, when he had to get married, filthy rich. All these people are extremely rich people, So he said, right at the time of marriage, there was an agreement signed. The agreement is that if in case we get divorced, मतलब ये शादी से पहले agreement signed हो रहा है. If in case we get divorced, then the lady cannot claim any property in my inheritance, which means she cannot ask for any claim in my parents' property, which ultimately going to come to me. So then I asked him, what happened? Did they got married? He said, yes. Did they remain married? He said, no. After a year, they got divorced. So anyways, what I'm trying to raise is, just think about it. You have family security. People wants to have friends. Can you get better friends than Krishna conscious communities? We get to meet so many wonderful people who all are in the spirit of serving others. People want some appreciation, encouragement. Everyone comes and tells you, Vanchakal Patru Bheshap Hamare Prabhu hai. हम आपके सेवक हैं. कहाँ respect मिलता है इतना? If you see overall, everything is there. Why person are not taken to Krishna consciousness? I'm talking the pious people here. I'm not talking people who are addicted to simple activity. That's a different ballgame. But even pious people are hesitant. The only reason is ajnanata. Therefore, we have to go and share with them this Krishna conscious culture. And these pious people are not going to get attracted more to philosophy. In fact, anyone. People generally get attracted to culture first. Therefore, Prabhupada said, ISKCON or Krishna consciousness is about cultural engineering. We have to present our culture where people come and see how we live, and then they get attracted to it. And then they begin to understand God consciousness gradually. And then they see, oh, by remembering God, by serving God, I could be happy. That's what majority people come into this category like that. So that's how Prabhupada gave us a culture. Let's conclude this verse. Kuru Nevihe Karmani. Mother Vidhavni, please read the last paragraph. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandat Pranams. Last paragraph or the second last?
Oh, there are two paragraphs remaining.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
When altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Sri ISOPANISHAD, they become a form of Karma Yoga. Such activities are recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 18.5 to 9, for they guarantee their executor protection from the danger of sliding down into the evolutionary process of birth and death. Even though such God-centered activities may be half finished, they are still good for the executor because they will guarantee him a human form of life, a human form in his next birth. In this way, one can have another chance to improve his position on the path of liberation.
Continue. This is done, right?
How one can execute God-centered activities is elaborately explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. We have rendered this book into English as the nectar of devotion. We recommend this valuable book to all who are interested in performing their activities in the spirit of Shri ISOPANISHAD. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this ends the second verse, which talks about living a God-centered life. And what is the result of God-centered life? You remain happy in this life and you attain to eternity, Satchitananda state after this life. Text number 3, which we shall take it tomorrow, talks about what happens to those who do not live a God-centered life. Karma bandhana, they're bound by the karma. They have to take birth again here. What happens to them? Asurinam te loka andhena tamasavrataha tamse prithavi gacchati ekatmahano jana. Fantastic. Swami Mohammed is saying, ekatmahano jana. And they are the killer of the soul. Those who do not live a God-centered life, he calls them as a killer of the soul. They enter into more darkness. Asuranam te loka, like that. We'll take a look at this tomorrow, which means either they glide down to lower species of life. That's what it means by darkness. Or as somebody has really performed sinful activities, then they go to lower planetary systems. And then they struggle there. We'll take a look at it tomorrow. Nonetheless, our Vedic culture is all about, if you look at it, one point, only one thing. If somebody asks me what your Vedic scriptures talks about, there's only one thing. Quit this world, go back home, back to God. Asatoma satagamaya, tamsoma jyotirgamaya, mrityam va amritam gamaya. That's the mission statement of Vedic scriptures or Vedic knowledge. With that, we pause here. Thank you all for paying attention. Anyone wants to add any reflections, any comments? Oh, Ranga. Yeah. Okay, sorry, got distracted with the sound which was coming. Okay. Fine. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll conclude here. We'll meet tomorrow. Continue this discussion. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.